Hello, all. This is Dr. Dave Maslach talking to you about reciprocity.com. The E is written with a three. And in this particular video, I'm going to talk about whether professors travel often and if they fly business class. So if you don't know me, I'm a professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship, and I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There are so many people that helped me out to get through graduate school that I decided to pay the favor forward and help you out as much as I possibly can. So this is a common question that I used to wonder all the time when I was doing my undergraduate degree, and I thought that there would be lots and lots of travel that professors had to do, and sometimes you hear that from other people that they travel a lot. And generally, most professors actually don't travel a heck of a lot. They travel. So on average, I would say that the average professor is going to travel anywhere between 2 to 50 times a year for business engagements, depending on who you are. And I'll get into some of these issues in 1 second. And really, a lot of it depends upon the individual as well as the status of the individual in their academic field, right? So, compared to industry, though, traveling 50 times a year is still not that much, right? So, in industry, if you were a consultant or so a management consultant, that would be the field that I'm in, that people would go and do this particular kind of stuff, or a senior level manager of somebody that is a comparable sort of status and education and all that kind of stuff. You're probably going to fly on average 1 to 3 times per week. Right. So the bare minimum, you're going to be flying like 50 times a year. Right. And that is kind of the norm to do that kind of stuff. And the reason is when you are senior level managers, you have to make sales, you have to talk to people, and being in person is a lot more effective. Right. You actually build what is called social capital with other people. And that's just building relationships with other people by showing up and actually taking the time to get to know those particular people. But professors, they vary a lot in terms of whether they travel. And a lot of it depends on the sort of level that they are. So if you don't know, there's kind of a hierarchy of professors in every university in terms of, how famous they are, basically, right? So lower level professors, just after they finish their PhD, which is where I am right now, assistant professor, they tend to not travel as much, but they do travel. Associate professors, yeah, they're kind of in the middle. They're kind of stuck in the middle. And then there's full professors, which are going to get a lot more demands and requests to go travel, right? So full professors is somebody that's probably been in the university system, depending on what university you're looking at. Maybe they've been in the academic system for 15 years after their PhD. That's kind of, I would say that's probably pretty typical. And at that point, you might get a lot more demands and requests to go travel, right? So that's really what it is. And those requests can come from other universities. So you might go travel, and it might come from sort of research sites that you're going to. And it's often to present research rather than doing sort of teaching engagements, although that is sometimes okay to do that. So when professors fly, do they actually fly business class? So, when I was, 20 years old, I probably thought that they fly business class all the time. And generally, most professors are not going to actually fly business class, unfortunately. And the reason is most of this is state funded, right? So it's a very luxurious career in the sense that it's paid by tax dollars. I don't know if that's supposed to be funny or not, but yeah, it's kind of a frivolous thing in society to have professors and have people to actually, generate new knowledge and think about new ideas. It's kind of really frivolous, right? And it's paid by the taxpayers. And so we are accountable to taxpayers, and we have to make sure that we're not overspending on the things that we're spending on. So all these sort of luxury goods and stuff like that. That's really, really important. And so, most professors are not going to fly like that, although that there are some around the world in different universities. There's not a lot, but there are some universities that are very well funded Generally, they tend to be private universities, and sometimes those professors, particularly the ones that are more famous, the junior ones, meh, but the ones that are more famous might have the opportunity to fly business class. Um, if you are thinking, in terms of the distance, in terms of when they might fly business class, yeah, sometimes that does matter. And they might fly business class if it's a longer flight, generally within North America. Not going to happen. But sometimes you might get the opportunity to fly business class if you're flying from, New York to Tokyo or something along those lines, just because it's a real pain, right? You wake up all tired and all that kind of stuff. So just reducing the amount of sort of difficulties you have, that's what ends up happening. And so sometimes actually the other university is going to pay for those flights. And the reason is they're bringing them in to go and give a research talk. And that's really what it is. They're not bringing them in to go teach generally. It's more of a research talk where they would spend a couple hours to get to know different researchers. And the other university is going to pay for that typically. And so they might also fly for conferences. That's actually really common, particularly if you are a junior professor, right? Assistant professor, you're going to fly around to lots of different conferences to do that kind of stuff. Now, do professors, are they actually going to fly business class from their own money? Yes, definitely. I know lots of people that they're going to. So what they'll do is their university will pitch in for the certain amount of stuff, right? The certain amount of flight, and it's usually economy class. And then out of their own money, they might fly business class because they just want to be more comfortable after a certain age, or maybe, that you've dealt with enough of that kind of stuff. You're just like, I just don't want to deal with that kind of stuff. So they'll fly business class, but they'll pay for it out of their own money. Or some of them just have points, the travel points and all that kind of stuff they get from their credit cards. And then they'll just get a bump up, just like regular everyday people, right? When do professors actually fly often, or when do they do most of their flying? Generally, it is within the summer months, and that's because they don't have teaching responsibilities. Although the more famous ones, the ones that are full professors and they're well known across the world, they might fly all throughout the year. And some people at some institutions might fly on a regular basis because what they're doing is they're presenting their research, right, at different institutions around the world and different universities. And they go and they give a research talk. They get to know some of the professors at those different universities. And, they sort of share ideas in their flying around at that point. They have a paper that they're working on. Do professors actually reduce the amount of time that they travel? Most do. And the reason is it is really time consuming to travel. And so there's a couple of tricks that you can do if you're in this boat. What you want to do is maybe bunch up a couple of presentations at different conferences. You can also do your traveling all at once. So maybe within a couple of weeks where you do all that traveling. And the reason is you either want to focus on doing your work, which you do need sort of your own office to do that kind of stuff, or you have family obligations and things like that you need to talk to, and you need to be around your family, or you're teaching, and that is, again, it's about a third of most people's workload is teaching, depending on where you are. And then you also have like commitments at the university where you got to go to committees and all that kind of stuff, right? So generally, they try to minimize them by bunching them together, or presenting a bunch of different papers at a single conference, or just saying no a lot of times. And then there's one last little trick that a lot of professors do, particularly as they get graduate students, is they get their graduate students to do all that flying around. Because usually graduate students, if they are doing their PhD or doing their master's, they are really wanting to travel, right? They're at the stage in life where they want to travel and explore the world. And there's lots of people that want to do that. And so they go and travel. So at what points, as well, other than the summer months, might you actually do more traveling? Sometimes professors are actually going to fly to a foreign university to do some teaching in the summertime. And that's pretty common. It's not like crazy common, but it's pretty common where they go and they would teach for 6 weeks or something like that at a foreign university. And the reason why they do that often is they just want to go visit that place. That's one of the luxuries of, having basically you're making friends around the world when you do this kind of career. And so I might have a friend in Switzerland, and they might put me up at either, sometimes it's at their house. Often it'll be at like university housing or something like that. You can just, borrow their office for a little bit and visit them. And sometimes you'll teach a course at those places. Sometimes when you're on what is called sabbatical, and that's after about 6 years or 8 years, depending on where you are, at what institution, you would travel for, 6 months and go to these different places and, just travel around and visit different universities and get some excuse to, get some more research done is really what you're doing. And, most professors, so coming back to, do professors actually travel often? Most don't travel a tremendous amount. They do travel, but not as much as you think compared to industry, right? So that is going to be a management consultant or a senior level, manager of comparable stage where they are. And most of them are not going to fly business class, because they're really budget focused, right? So we have to be budget focused because at the end of the day, we're government employees, and we have to make sure that we're being very stingy, I guess, with our funds, right? So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Do subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's really nice of you to do that, and take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.